All right. So our first game we are going to talk about today is going to be one of the four marquee matchup games that took place in, I believe it's Frankfurt, Germany, and it was the Kansas City Chiefs, the Miami Dolphins. The Chiefs win 21-14. I woke up at 7 a.m. West Coast time to watch this game, and it almost put me back to bed because of how bad it was. This was a rough watch. My question to you is, are the Miami Dolphins frauds?
No, they're not. It was a one-score game. Come on.
It was a one-score game despite Kansas
was
City going into halftime 21-0.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Kansas City did not finish the game 21-0. They finished the game 21-14. Total stats, team stats, Miami had more total yards, more passing yards by one, still more rushing yards, and yeah, they just got outworked at the end. Like that, both teams had a fumble. Like it was fairly evenly matched, in my opinion. Third down efficiency was pretty much the same exact thing. They almost ran the exact same plays, or total amount of plays as I'm looking at this. 3 sacks to 2 sacks, 7 punts to 6 punts. Possession was less than a minute. Like these two teams are almost identical. So yeah, no, it was not a sham. Miami's not a sham. You're calling them a sham. They're not a sham. They may be sham wow, but they're not a sham.
I mean, that was kind of this
Or
game, right?
they might be Shamu. I don't know, Dolphins. I don't know. I'm going Miami
You
thing.
killed it with the
Boo.
ShamWow, and then you destroyed it with the Shamu. So let's just I could edit out the
Can I clean it up with some
Shamu.
shampoo?
And he's right back. He's right back. Wow. But yeah, interestingly enough, you saying that, because the first half of this game, you're like sham. And then the second half, you were like, wow? Question mark. And then you gotta feel bad because that one fumble the Dolphins gave up, it was a swing pass to the left side of the field to Tyreek Hill. He just gets absolutely bodied. They rip the ball from his hands. The guy picks it up, scoops it to his teammate. His teammate runs back, and it's like a fumble pick six. But for that to specifically happen to Tyreek Hill in the first game he's playing his old team in, I don't know. I just really like Tyreek Hill. Every video of him I see, he seems like a guy everybody loves, and he just seems like a really good guy. So for that to happen on his return to face his former team, I don't know. That just didn't sit right with me, Casino. But let's move on to the Kansas City side of this. When it comes to Kansas City, I mean, you look at the stats like you were just doing, especially for Patrick Mahomes, 20 of 30, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. Props to Travis Kelce for getting 3 receptions, 14 yards, and absolutely burying my fantasy football team at 7 a.m. West Coast time. I lost that. I didn't even score 100 points this week, so killed it. But when it comes to Kansas City, I still don't think there's something off with them. And when it comes to
Travis
their
Kelce
offense,
wasn't on. I mean, yes, they won this game, but man, they're a little rough.
Now, I do think from everything we've seen from this team, their defense appears to be elite. Would you disagree with that?
No, I wouldn't say. I mean, top. They're really, really good. I wouldn't call them elite. No.
So after this game, or no, I'm sorry, going into this game, they're 4th ranked in the league in total defense.
Okay,
After
4th.
this game,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think
They're
that's
4th.
going to change very much, but I think they can finish the season as a top 3 defense. Their pass rush is incredible. They get to the quarterback immediately, and that's what you have to do to beat this Dolphins team. Just disrupt their rhythm and just never let them get into rhythm. Tua Tagovailoa, 21 for 34, 193 yards, 1 touchdown. They absolutely shut down Tyreek Hill, 8 receptions, 62 yards. He was targeted 10 times. Waddle, 3 receptions, 42 yards. On 6 targets. And then Mozart got 12 carries, 85 yards, 1 touchdown. And then nobody else had any luck running. But besides, I mean, I do kind of agree that Dolphins started coming back in the second half, but that fumble was just an absolute killer. And then they couldn't get anything going after that, especially in the fourth quarter. And you end the game 21-14. So we can transition with this question into
So
talking about
so
the
do
next
you
team.
do you really think the Dolphins are not legit just because they lost to the Chiefs in a
I
one-score
think
game?
No, I think the Dolphins are not legit because their only 3 losses are against 3 teams with a winning record. The only good
Uh,
teams they've played, they got blown out by Buffalo, they got blown out in Philadelphia, and then they go overseas and are
yeah,
getting blown
so
out
again,
21 to
all
0 at
right, so
halftime.
Buffalo, who's arguably the best team in the league when they're on, then you have Philly, who is currently the best team in the league, and then you have the reigning Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you want to be in the conversation with those teams, like you have to play to their level and against 2 of those teams, and we'll get to Buffalo when we talk about them, but Buffalo right now feels like a team that the everything's stacked against them. They might miss the playoffs. So, you have Kansas City, who everybody is like, what is wrong with Kansas City? Like they're barely scoring 3 touchdowns a game. You have the Eagles, which we'll get to where they're like, what's wrong with the Eagles? Everybody's passing on them. They have a terrible defense. And then you have Buffalo, where it's just straight up, what's wrong with Buffalo? And against those 3 teams, it was 2 blowouts, and then they're down 21 to 0 to the other one. So when we talk about Miami, they ironically feel like the NFC equivalent of the Cowboys, which is just when they're going against the Broncos, they're going to put up 70 points. When they're going against the other good teams in the league, or actual good teams in the league that are not, in the caliber of the Broncos, they're going to get blown off the field and then either have to try to scrape back or just throw their hands up and be like, live to fight another day. Because of the Dolphins are 6-3 right now. Of their 6 wins, what do you think is their best win? Like, I mean, it's all against. I'll read you their wins right now.
I have it up.
Well, just for the audience, they blew out the Patriots 31-17. They blew out the Panthers 42-21. They blew out the Giants 31-16. They blew out the Broncos 70-30. They beat the
20.
Patriots again in a 1-score game, 24-17. And then the opening week, they beat the Chargers by 2. So I don't think, and we disagreed about this. We'll see about them tonight on Monday Night Football, but I don't think the Chargers are good. We know the Patriots aren't good. The Giants and
Whoa,
Broncos.
whoa, 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 whoa. Did you just say the mediocre at best?
So they're mediocre. The
At
Broncos,
best.
Giants, Panthers, you can make a case for all those teams being 3 of the worst teams, if not one of those being the worst teams in the NFL. So which of those wins is impressive to you?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that Broncos game in retrospect looks more impressive because the Broncos beat this same Chiefs team a week ago, but that Chiefs team also had 5 turnovers and they lost and that game was still relatively close towards the end of it. So,
And this game was relatively close too. So you know what? Again, it is what it is.
well,
Tomato,
I
potato.
think the last 3 weeks of this season, the Dolphins play Cowboys, Ravens, Bills. So it really is. And then the next couple weeks, they play Raiders, Jets, Raiders, Jets, Commanders, Titans, Jets again. And then that's where they start their 3-game hard schedule. So
Do
they better start stacking up wins.
you just want me to do what I do to my wife. You win. You win. You win. I had to say this quietly. You win.
That's all I wanted. That's all I
There
wanted.
you go.
As for
And speaking of winning, move on.
there you go. That's I was going for a transition. You nailed it, Casino. Our
Thank
second
you.
marquee game of the week, which started at the actual time football games are supposed to start, was the Baltimore Ravens absolutely bodying the Seattle Seahawks 37-3. The Baltimore Ravens are now 7-2.
This is not the order you said.
Seattle falls to 5-3. Yes, it is. Check the one I just sent to you.
Oh, God. Ugh, dumb.
But let's talk about the Ravens Seahawks Casino. I don't want to say the same thing we just said with these
No.
with the Dolphins where they're not legit, but I think the
No,
Seahawks
they just the Seahawks are still good. They just got beat by in my opinion, the best team rolling right now. I mean, the Eagles are good. Don't get me wrong, but I would be scared to play the Ravens if I were them. The
well
Ravens
my
are awesome right now.
My
They're healthy.
question is essentially about not the Seahawks as a team, but Geno Smith. On the season, he has 1,800 yards, 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions with a completion percentage. Oh, I can't see it. So I know his completion percentage is mid.
Oh,
So
for this season, it is 65.2.
oh, that's actually way better than I thought it was. So with
So
the
chill, bro. And his passer ratings in 86. 4.
yeah, which 86 is not good. And he has 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. So in this game, he had 13 of 28, 157 yards, 1 interception. Kenneth Walker the third had 9 carries for 16 yards. This
He had a bad
Ravens
game.
defense.
He's not the best quarterback in the league. He's not the quarterback. You know this. We've talked about this. Is he much better than what he had in the past, these last 2 seasons? Oh yeah. He had a stinker of a game against a really good Ravens team.
Well,
I'm not writing this team out. I'm not saying the Seahawks are going to win the Super Bowl. No. I'm not calling that. I'm just saying they got whomped by a team that was ready to play. A team that was ready to absolutely just stomp them. And they did.
yeah. And on the other side, on the Ravens side, Lamar Jackson, 21 for 26, 187 yards, no touchdowns, no INTs. He also rushed for 10 attempts for 60 yards. Yeah, at this moment, would you take the Baltimore Ravens or the field in terms of if you had to pick a Super Bowl winner right now?
I would still pick the field. I would pick the field just on an odds perspective, but if I was any other team but the Ravens, I'd be scared as hell to play them.
Yeah, I agree. Their defense going into this game was ranked second in the league. I only behind the Cleveland Browns. I don't think that'll change. I do think the Cowboys move back. I think the Chiefs go up. So the top 3 defenses in the league right now, Browns, Ravens, Chiefs, and all of them showed why they're the top 3 defenses in the league, especially shutting down a Seahawks offense that hasn't been firing on all cylinders, but they've still been pretty damn good this season.
Oh no,
Obviously,
yeah,
they're still 5-3.
they stumped them. They just crushed them. It is what it is. Kenneth Walker was having a really good season so far. He had 16 yards on 9 carries. Like,
Yeah,
and
averaging less than 2 yards a carry.
Geno Smith had a rough game, and yeah, everybody just had a tough time.
Well,
Everybody had a rough week. It is what it is.
I also feel, especially as fans of your teams, wouldn't you rather lose games like this where you just get completely blown off the field and then it's just like, all right, not our week. Like we'll come back and bounce back instead of games where it's like 42-40 and you lose on a last, like we'll talk about it later, but that Texans game, I mean, you just have to be like, fuck, we got the ball
Dude,
back with 30
they
seconds left and they
yeah.
win.
Yeah,
Ugh.
when they showed after when they come back and Stroud comes back and wins that and they show Baker on the sideline,
I know.
I actually like for the very first time, like I've liked Baker and I disliked Baker. Like I keep going back and forth. But in that moment when I saw him, because he had an amazing drive down the field. And when I saw him on the sideline after that game, dude, it ripped my soul apart, man.
Yeah.
It ripped my
Uh,
soul apart. Anyway, that's for
we'll
another
get to
day.
that game. But yeah, I'd much rather have my team get blown out and just be like, not our Sunday. But speaking of excruciating games when you're a fan of a team, let's move to the now 8-1 Philadelphia Eagles winning in Philadelphia 28-23 against the now 5-3 Dallas Cowboys. I am a Eagles fan for anybody who is not paying attention or first time seeing this show. So I am obviously a little biased, but I'll try to put my biases aside, Casino. So that's why I'll let you talk first. Thoughts on this game, thoughts on the Cowboys and Eagles just as a whole.
I thought this game was exactly what I thought it was going to be, a tough game where the Eagles were going to win it. I called it. I said the Eagles were going to win. Um, and here's something though. I got to give Dak. He did play really well. Um, and this is why I'm gonna take the Eagles as long as barring nobody gets crazy hurt. I'm gonna take the Eagles over the Cowboys all season, even come playoff time. I'm gonna call that call because Dak played one of his better games of the year and still lost. And we've talked about they are only as good as Dak is, and they still lost. I mean, they showed up to play though. I will give the Cowboys that. I mean, it's a rivalry game. They showed up. They wanted to win. CD Lamb went off. He was almost 200 yards. He was nine yards from 200 and only 11 receptions. Absolute monster of a game for him. Just monster game. But on the flippity flop, AJ Brown only needs 66 yards and he beats him. So I love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
Now, so I do agree. And again, I, if you want
I
to
just
hear
don't
me,
I honestly and like total yards and passing and literally Dallas was almost beating them in every category, but the Eagles pull it off. Um, I just like the Eagles. I like the Eagles so much better than I do. Like I think that one fumble loss really messed up the Cowboys.
well, it was also if you want to hear me bitch and complain about the refs, go listen
Oh, it
to
was bad.
Our Chiefs Eagles Super Bowl, and then there's a bunch of other podcasts where all we do is rip on the refs. And this week was no exception. However, people are acting like this game is an outlier and there weren't bad calls on either team. Like, I don't know what game you think you were watching where the Eagles were getting every call. Like, they had a hold on Mika Parsons that wasn't called. They had a complete phantom. I text you when this one happened. The AJ Brown like pass interference on the right hand side where the ball is out of bounds by 10 yards and they call pass interference on, I think it was Gilmore, and the Eagles get a first down. I was like, what? Like, how? Like, they showed the replay and it was also like, what's going on here? There were so many bad calls in this game on both sides. I mean, you want to now talk about plays that benefited the Cowboys. The Cowboys in the final 30 seconds of that game with no timeouts were gifted like 75 yards in ticky-tack bullshit penalties. There's also needs to be a rule addressed where it's and this is in every game, where you throw a Hail Mary to your wide receiver, but it's short, so your wide receiver stops, the defender runs into him, and then it's pass interference on an underthrown, uncatchable ball. Like, that was a play that gave, I can't remember what
It was a
Cowboys
lot of yards.
it was, but it was like a 40-yard completion with like 30 seconds left in the game. And it was like both the PIs, you can now say, oh, one canceled out the other because they were both bullshit, uncatchable balls. But again, this is week 9. We've been bitching about the referees all season, especially this season. It
Well,
feels like
again, I
way
think they've
more.
gone way too far into trying to fix things and make it perfect where now everything is muddled.
Yeah, I think you always hear the phrase let them play. And at a certain point, it just has to get to that kind of thing where it's just like, unless it's fucking egregious, like we're just going to let them play. Like, unless you're, and I think if you're a cornerback throwing a wide receiver to the ground, pass interference, right? If you're a wide receiver, or if you're a cornerback who has your hands on the wide receiver, uh, not pass interference. Like, I just think
You
there's,
get paid millions of dollars to catch the ball under pressure.
yeah,
Push them
I
off.
just, and then, but this is, everybody always says football is a game of inches. This game was literally won by, I think one of the announcers even said it. This game was literally won by an inch and a half. Because the backup tight end catches the ball, he downs it at the 1 yard line or half-inch yard line on 4th down. No Cowboys quarter or no Cowboys score. Then Dak steps out on the 2-point conversion, which this is where we can shit on Dak Prescott, because the situational awareness is where everyone has always had the issue. Replay the
You can't get your foot out of
Niners
that on that
game.
line. You had to
Yeah,
stay in bounds. He had the 2-point conversion, and then they would have had the field goal, then it would have gone to OT, and who knows what would have happened. But
yeah.
he screwed the pooch on that, man.
I mean, he was 3 yards away from the nearest defender. I don't know why he went so wide on the angle to try to get it. He could have
Because
just
he's afraid
ran
to get
straight
hit.
in. I don't know what that was, but it's also my favorite stat from last night, which I did send to you, Casino, was the in passer rating when trailing this season. Jalen Hurts, NFL rank is first. Dak Prescott, dead last. Think of how many bad quarterbacks are in the league and how many 3rd and 4th string quarterbacks we're seeing start on Sundays. I mean, just this weekend alone, there was like 6 teams that were literally starting 3rd or 4th string quarterbacks. Still, when trailing this season, Dak Prescott worst passer rating, which means he is anti-clutch. So I don't know where this narrative came from, where it's like, oh man, Dak Prescott, clutch. All he does is win. We've seen it time and time again, just over and over again each season. When the game is on the line, he does the run up the middle with no timeouts against the 49ers. And everybody's screaming at the TV like, what the like, literally the one thing you can't do, you just did. And it's just becomes this
That was
just
funny. I laughed. I laughed my ass off when he did that.
there's also, and I'm trying to pull it up right now, the going into or because of last night's game. Oh, stall. So the Cowboys had 1st and goal from the 6-yard line with 27 seconds left. This is the sequence of events they went. False start, sack, incompletion, delay of game, completion short about 5 yards of the goal line. So when the game was on the line, no ref interference on this one, right? Because the refs had helped them get to this point in the game. When it became we're winning the game or we're losing the game, false start, sack, incompletion, delay of game, and then a ball 10 yards short of the goal line. So we can bitch and we can sit here. And also, if you're a Cowboys fan and you want to say you lost this game because of the referees, I'm fine with that. I still think the Eagles lost the Super Bowl against the Chiefs because of the referees, and I'll bitch about that till I die. So you wanting to use that, like,
Oh,
be
great.
my
Something to look
fucking
forward
guest.
to.
Yeah, I don't like. Again, my Eagles won. If they would have lost the game, I would have been bitching about the 75 yards in the last minute that they were granted. But if we're just talking, take the refs out of it, because I don't like the referees. I've always said a call that benefits my team will fuck my team in the future. So I don't want any of those calls, right? Like, I don't want that. So when it comes to referees being dipshits who decide the game, I don't want it across the board. Okay. When it comes to the game, without the referees, when we're talking about this one specifically, Dallas had a chance to win the game at the end, put all the other bullshit aside, and they choked. There's no other way to describe it. Now, when it comes to the Eagles and Cowboys, the Eagles got a much needed bye week because everybody on their team got injured. Hurts got hit low below the knees, and then he came back out, and it was a huge sigh of relief. Their entire secondary's banged up. Hassan Reddick had to miss a couple plays of the game. So bye week couldn't have come at a better time, and now they just hit a murderer's row of opponents. Cowboys, on the other hand, get like 3 games they should win by 40 in a row. So they're definitely not dead in the water. They're going to bounce back. They're going to win the next game when it's Philly and Cowboys in Dallas because they're a better team in Dallas. They're going to win that game. So all Philly has to do, they're 2.5 games ahead. They just need to win their other games that aren't Dallas. The Eagles and Dallas always split. So we can move on to the next game. Last bit we'll talk about is the Bengals and Bills game, Casino. This game, unlike the Dolphins Chiefs game we talked about, this one felt like it was over almost immediately. There's something about the Bengals where they just feel like they have the Bills number and just know how to play.
Well, the Bengals also just feel like they're back, man.
Yeah, that was my next question. Are the Bengals back?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Joe Burrow, I think, is healthy.
The score ended up being 24-18, but if you watch that game, that score is very misleading. It felt like the Bengals, there was 2 touchdown drives where
the Bengals had the football. The Bengals had the football for like 13 more minutes than the Bills.
And they could have also had 2 more touchdowns if the 2 drops wouldn't have happened. So this game really did feel like a blowout.
And it comes down and Bills, man, more ball security not happening.
Well, it's also, is there a quarterback in the league who is more elite or who is elite who throws worse interceptions than Josh Allen? Like that interception he threw, it was just like his guy. It looked like he was throwing it to the Bengals guy who was his receiver. He was in front of the Bills receiver and had like a full step on him. And it was like
probably wasn't paying attention. He thought of the route and threw it to the route, which you're going to get picked if you do that.
Now, I agree with you. The Bengals are back. They really do feel like they're hitting on all cylinders. And let's talk about the Bills real quick because the Bills' schedule might lead them to potentially missing the playoffs.
What's your favorite saying?
What?
The Bills' schedule is?
Oh, the Bills' schedule. They play the Broncos.
Is murder's row. You say that so much, man.
I do. I didn't know that.
But
dude,
it is murder's row all the yeah, it's so bad.
That's where I come from, right? So it makes me think of my time in the clink. But their murderer's row schedule, Casino. So they play Broncos, who knows what the fuck the Broncos are now, especially after beating the Chiefs. They play the Jets again, who already beat them. Then they play the Eagles in Philadelphia. They play the Chiefs in Kansas City. Then they play the Cowboys, the Chargers, the Patriots, who already beat them, and then the Dolphins again. So literally, they play 2 divisional opponents again who have already beat them.
So and then it kind of looks like they could easily split what's left.
Yeah, which right now they're 5-4. So does 9 wins in the AFC, does it get you in the playoffs? Especially when probably you're going to be fighting the Dolphins for potentially that last playoff spot?
Nah, Dolphins are going to take that spot.
Well, also the crazy thing is the Bengals, we're saying the Bengals are back. They are currently last in their division right now. The Ravens are first at 7-2. Steelers are 5-3. Browns are 5-3. Bengals are 5-3.
But they started off 1-3.
Oh yeah, no, I think the Bengals find a way to get into the playoffs, especially.
I don't know how the Steelers are 5-3.
Well, we can talk about that next, Casino, when we talk about other games. For people listening, it'll be right next. For people watching, it'll be the next video. But Any final thoughts on any of these 4 games, Casino, or you feel like you got it all out?
Well, yeah, I'm good.
I do think we saw potentially in all these games the best teams in the league, because I think at this moment nobody's playing better than the Ravens or Bengals. The Chiefs and Eagles obviously went to the Super Bowl last year. They're both have 2 of the best records in the NFL. And then there's the weirdness that is the Buffalo Bills, the Seahawks, and then the Miami Dolphins. So
Whoa, whoa,
4
whoa! You
marquee
didn't talk about
games.
my Super Bowl contenders, bro.
Well, the Lions were on a bye.